Hey there, folks. Hey there, my family of subscribers, viewers, followers, well wishers. Welcome to this Tuesday Live. I hope that everyone is doing well. Yep. I hope that wherever you are, yeah, you're making the best use of the time that you have, whether it's at work, at play, whatever you're doing, yep, and that you're thankful for this day. I'm here in the beautiful tri-island state of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, yes. The past days we have seen some rainy spells, intermittent rainy spells. Heavy wind, yep. It's like I would leave where I'm at here. My location is in Marianne. It's one of the rural villages just off the capital city of St. George's. And by the time I get to, let's say, Monjalou, those of you who are familiar, I will leave my area here. It would be dry by the time I get there. It's wet. But as I always say, these are things we have no control of. Yep. So today, I want us to discuss CARICOM. Yep. I want us to discuss what it means to each and every one of us here in the Caribbean. Yep. What it is and what it probably is supposed to be. Yep. Just give me a minute here. I had a tablet that I had to seek some additional information. It is asking me here to sign in. You know, it just had to make sure that it recognizes my face. And that in itself oftentimes proves challenging. It wants to make sure that, okay, all right, so I finally sign in. Yes. For those of you in Grenada, and certainly the Caribbean, because CARICOM is a regional body. Hey VIP, thank you for joining this live. Thank you for joining this live. Where are you located? Hi, Kathleen, good afternoon. VIP, where are you located? Where are you joining this live from? Yep, Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. I don't know if you've ever heard. It's in the Caribbean. It's the West Indies. I'm quite sure you may have heard about Jamaica and probably Trinidad. Well, we are the island furthest south, just above Trinidad and Tobago, if that would help. Yep. So yes, CARICOM. Folks, I want to read first before I give you my 2 cents as far as CARICOM is concerned. What is CARICOM? Yeah? And what is its role in our society? Hey, Muzz 1037, hello and welcome. How are you? Where are you joining this live from? Feel free to comment. Yes? I cherish jelly comments. It helps me to gauge where I'm at in an attempt. Oh, welcome. How is India? How is your area in India? What area in India are you located and what is the time in your area? Where I'm at here in the village of Marianne in the tri-island state of Grenada, it is 1 minute past 5. Oh, it's 2:31. Whoa. It's already Wednesday in your area there. Thank you for joining. Bengaluru. I think I've heard about it, especially when there is cricketing, the IPL, etc. Isn't there one of the a major cricketing field in Bengaluru? And also, what is the name of the IPL team? that is from your area. I'm a cricket fan, I must say. Yep. And I know cricket is like a sacred thing there for you, India and Indians. Hey, Nina Cruz, how are you? Welcome to this live. Welcome to this live. Yes, so let me just continue here. What is CARICOM and what is its role in our society here in the Caribbean? Folks, for those of you India and beyond, CARICOM is a regional body that brings together economically, politically, the countries, the small islands in the Caribbean. CARICOM. CARICOM is referred to as the Caribbean Community. It is an intergovernmental organization that is a political and economic union of 15 member states and 5 associated states. Yes? 15 member states and 5 associated states. Now, member states, in my opinion, and I'm subject to correction, are fully fledged members, whereas the 5 associated states is countries that they do not have any significant saying, but they are invited to understand its working. And I guess ultimately it's in their interest whether or not they would want to become full members. That is just my take. Yeah. So it was established in 1973, and that was 1 year before this country, the state of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, attained its independence. Grenada attained its independence on the 7th of February, 1974. Its whole aim, it says here, is to promote cooperation, development, and unity among Caribbean countries and dependencies. Yeah, I'm just going to take it over. CARICOM, it's referred to as the Caribbean Community. It's an intergovernmental organization that is a political and economic union of 15 member states and 5 associated states. It was established in 1973, and its aim is to promote cooperation, development, and unity among Caribbean countries. It goes on to say, here, just to elaborate a bit, the Caribbean Community, or CARICOM, is a grouping of 21 countries. That's another bit of information I got relative to CARICOM in my research online. 15 member states, as I alluded to previously, and it says here, this one here says 6 associate members, whereas the first bit said 15 full-fledged members and 5 associated. I'm not sure who they would have asked to come in as associated member lately. Yep. It is home to approximately 16 million citizens, 60% of whom are under the age of 30, and from the main ethnic groups of indigenous peoples: Africans, Indians, Europeans, Chinese, Portuguese, and Javanese. So folks, it's a melting pot of people from all walks of life, from different races, speaking different languages. Yep. The community is multilingual, with English as the major language, complemented by French and Dutch and variations of these. I know we have a little bit of patois, yeah, as well as African and Asian expressions. We have in our midst quite a number of persons from the French side. Hey sis, thank you for joining the live from the overseas departments of Guadeloupe, Martinique. You have on the Dutch side Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, Saba. Yep, we have amongst us quite a number of Haitians as well. It says here, stretching from the Bahamas in the north to Suriname and Guyana in the south. Yep, I know Guyana is a full-fledged member. I think, and I'm subject to correction, Suriname is an associate member. Again, as I say, I'm subject to correction. These two countries are in South America. CARICOM comprises states that are considered developing countries. And except for Belize in Central America and Guyana and Suriname in South America, all members and associate members are island states. While these states are all relatively small, both in terms of population and size, there is also a great diversity with regards to geography and population, as well as the levels of economic and social development. Yep. Pillars of integration. Functional cooperation in various conceptions has always been a quest for countries of the Caribbean. From the early efforts for political union, which led to the establishment of the West Indies Federation in 1958. Folks, I just want to pause here because it brings to mind an illustrious Grenadian, prominent Grenadian, Theophilus Albert Marichaux. Yep. He was the man behind that movement years ago. It goes on to say, to the deeper and most structured engagements of the CARICOM Free Trade Association. CARICOM Free Trade Association, what is called CARIFTA. Yep, we oftentimes hear about the CARIFTA Games. We have a lot of exposition relative to CARIFTA, where the countries that are members of CARICOM come together and showcase their produce, their products in select islands. I don't know if it's every year, but I know this is something that happens. In fact, I think coming up in July, Grenada will host an Afro-Caribbean Expo. Yeah? I would strongly encourage those of you here and those of you that will be visiting around that time to be a part of and participate in seeing not just what the Caribbean has to offer, but our brothers and sisters in the motherland, Africa, has to offer. The last 4 member states so it says here, yes, I was explaining to you what is CARIFTA. I see in bracket here 1965. So to me, it tells me, hi, Sister Francois. Hey, Sharon. How are you? Thank you for joining the live. Thank you for joining the live. Folks, I encourage you to comment. Let me know where you're joining the live from. Share your thoughts on what I'm thinking about. Yep. And what I'm saying. Yep. So yes, CARIFTA was started in 1965. And again, it says Caribbean Free Trade Association, to the most sustained measure of regional integration through a Caribbean community. I just want to take that over there because I'm kind of lost. Sorry about that. Pillars of integration. Functional cooperation in various conceptions has always been a quest for countries of the Caribbean. From the early efforts for a political union, which led to the establishment of the West Indies Federation in 1958, to the deeper and more structured engagements of the Caribbean Free Trade Association, CARIFTA, that was started in 1965, to the more sustained measure of regional integration through a Caribbean community, CARICOM, in 1973. The last, for member states, offered the best prospect for Caribbean economic development. Am I to understand that that which was created previously did not offer enough or the best prospect for Caribbean economic development, and it was probably just a political movement? Food for thought. CARICOM came into being on the 4th of July 1973 with the signing of the Treaty of Chagaramas. And Chagaramas is a village or a city or a town in Trinidad and Tobago by Prime Ministers Errol Barrow, now deceased, of Barbados, Forbes Burnham of Guyana, also deceased, and Michael Manley of Jamaica, also deceased, and Eric Williams for Trinidad and Tobago. So Errol Barrow, Barbados, Forbes Burnham, Guyana, Michael Manley, Jamaica, and Eric Williams, Trinidad and Tobago. These 4 prime ministers, now deceased, yes, led the charge to create, by the Treaty of Chagaramas, CARICOM. The treaty was later revised in 2002 to allow for the eventual establishment of a single market and single economy. Yep. So after the treaty was signed in July, the 4th of July 1973, and I'm quite sure after it was signed, the individual governments had to ratify it. And usually ratification involves passing it through the various parliaments and senates, what have you, and signing off. Yeah. So after that was done, the treaty was later revised in 2002 to allow for the eventual establishment of a single market and single economy. So the pillars of regional integration are, there are 4 pillars: economic integration, foreign policy coordination. Folks, we're going to talk a little bit about that. Human and social development, and security. Folks, are we satisfied with the workings of CARICOM as it is? Are they on track to complete and act on the mandate that was arrived at in 1973 and later revised in 2002? We can safely speak to in the case of the OECS. Let me just sidetrack a bit. We see in the OECS a strong union as far as our currency is concerned. Folks, that is not the case in CARICOM. Yes? Amongst all the monetary unions in the Caribbean, the EC is formidable and stands strong. And sometimes it makes me wonder if CARICOM at all would ever be fully functional. Trinidad has their own currency. Jamaica has their own currency. Barbados has their own currency. Single market, economic integration. And I remember I was probably but a teenager, maybe just working. I used to always refer to this CARICOM heads of government as a talk shop. They go there, they talk, maybe eat, drink, meet each other. And at the end of the day, I just couldn't see the benefit. Is that still the case? It still is the case for me. Though, if I were to rate it then, and my rating would have been 5 from 10, I'm going to give it 7 at this point in time. Yep. Look at the situation there with the travel between our islands, between the countries of the Caribbean. I remember just before the Cricket World Cup that the West Indies and the Caribbean was hosting, travel between the islands was the word I'm looking for. Not manageable. The prices were not as high as it is now. As soon as Cricket World Cup came in, I remembered only too well to go to Trinidad. It was about $200-300. Barbados was about the same thing. Because when you look at the time it takes you from here to go to Trinidad and the time to Barbados, about the same thing. Perhaps all of a sudden Cricket World Cup come and prices skyrocketed. Yes? Did it come down? No, it did not come down. Look at the situation we have with Lescott struggling to survive. And it was put together, funded and supported by various governments in the Caribbean. Instead of sitting down and coming together, yeah, and trying to put things in place to save Lescott, we went ahead and bring in an alternative airline as though that will solve the problem. Yes? Make it make sense. Is it making sense? Are we making sense? Our beloved Prime Minister here, Honorable Dickon Mitchell, when he came in, spoke in terms of the issues relative to travel as far as integration in the Caribbean is concerned. A few years ago, there were talk, maybe about 5 or so years ago, about initiating travel using boats throughout the islands. And in fact, something was started that was on the verge of starting. And then that just died a slow death. You heard nothing about it again. Folks, does anyone remember Seamstrand? That vessel was a quick vessel too, that plied the routes between Grenada, St. Vincent and most of the other small islands. A vessel that we could have relied upon. Yes? Gone are those days. Yes? These are all part of integration. And yes, they have decided upon the free movement of skills and labor throughout the Caribbean. That was overdue. And it's something I welcome. Yeah. So you have Grenadians, professionals, skilled individuals can go to Trinidad or probably apply for Trinidad and be successful. Barbados, Jamaica, Guyana, St. Lucia, St. Vincent. Yeah? I know there was also talk about political union. Folks, I don't ever think that will work. Ants will have to bring that news for me. Folks, when you have persons wanting to maintain their identity as Jamaicans, as Barbadians, as Trinidadians, that will never work. Yes? We can look from a sporting perspective. West Indies cricket team, a beacon of hope as far as integration is concerned. Yes. I think recently, though, with the new head of, the name has changed to Cricket West Indies, action was taken to break up the so-called West Indies team. I'm subject to correction here. Okay, instead of having, yes, it's West Indies, yeah. You have, for example, in the case of the Windward Islands and the Leeward Islands, yeah, you have each individual cricketing nation taking part as a single unit competition time. I think that augurs well for the future. It helps to showcase additional talent that is sorely needed now more than ever. Yes, because we know the situation with our beloved West Indies team. We are in the doldrums as it is there. Yep. So it is hope that will create some drive for aspiring cricketers, give them the encouragement. Yep. I've spoken so much about cricket already too that I don't even want to go into that. Yeah. Economically. And sometimes I sit down and I try to figure out, how is that working? How can that work? Again, you have Grenada having a flour mill, St. Vincent having a flour mill, Barbados having a flour mill, Jamaica having a flour mill. And there have been times in the past where there were trading issues between either Trinidad or Jamaica, Barbados, because this one trying to protect their goods, that one trying to protect their goods, and this one want to debar this one. Take, for example, I think the situation here with the Beekeepers Association here in Grenada. I don't think they have it where it all to export honey to Trinidad. Where are we headed with that kind of attitude? Yes? How will we be able to successfully trade amongst ourselves, let alone trade with the big world. Let us look at foreign policy. And oftentimes for me, it's a crying shame when things along that line happens that affects us directly, and there isn't a one voice coming from CARICOM in terms of a response. You have this side wavering. This side would come out strongly and state their point, whereas you have some afraid to speak their mind. If we are to fully integrate, our decisions must reflect a single voice. In unity, there is strength. Make no mistake about that. Make no mistake about that. Security. Well, I think for security, that seems to be working well. Though we need to step up. Step up in terms of technology. Surveillance. Tracking. More coordination and cooperation amongst the islands. Because lately we're seeing crimes and criminals moving from countries and throughout countries, from one country to the other. It's alarming and frightening. Yep. We need to introduce technology. We need to seek more cooperation. From the bigger powers, the United States, Britain. Training, equipment, coast guards. To contain and keep our borders in check. Yeah? That for me is what integration means. Folks, am I making sense? Are there anybody on the live here that share my view? I mean, look at Europe. European Union, one currency, the EU, the euro. Yeah? Much larger than us, economically and otherwise. Why can't we have one monetary union? What is stopping us from doing that? Yes? I'm always impressed, I must admit, with the utterances of Barbados' Prime Minister, Mia Mottley. Always, always, always. I don't just like talk. For me, action speaks volume. Yep. Let's see more action. Let there be more will on the various administration, heads of governments and authorities in the Caribbean to get us to a better level. We can secure food. We can secure ourselves food-wise in the Caribbean, you know. We are blessed here in the Caribbean. I see here in Grenada, as soon as one fruit is about to go out of season, the next one comes in. I'm quite sure it's the same thing in other countries. What are we doing? Where are we going? Yeah. Grenada Lifestyle, good day. Thank you for joining this live, man. What's up? How are you? Yep. We need to take stock of these regional pillars. Yeah. Folks, today I'm discussing CARICOM and what is its take, what it means to us here in the Caribbean, and what its role in our society ought to be. Good to know, man. Good to know, man. Thank you for joining the live. Yep. So the 4 pillars it says here is economic integration. We have a long way to go in all 4 pillars. Foreign policy coordination. I think if I were to rate that from 1 to 10, I'll give them 5. They're lax in that regard. Yeah. Human and social development. There's a lot still to be done in that regard. Security. They have gotten a far distance. Yes. I still urge them to do more. Technologically wise, equipment wise, because crime and criminals are getting more sophisticated, and we need to always be a step ahead. Folks, I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this little discourse on the CARICOM. Yes, let us as people of the region be abreast of the happening. Yes, speak out, discuss, urge our leaders, the people that we have chosen to make decisions on our behalf, to not just speak, but act. Thank you, each and every one of you that is currently on the live, that is viewing. Please subscribe, share, like, and continue to follow. Enjoy what's left of today. Goodbye.